Well, hello. It's been a good amount of time. Uh, but I thought I'd kind of come back and do an update on D&B's Array Calc. It has had a lot of updates since I last looked at it, and this sort of going through it. So let's get into it. So when opening it up for the first time, course, it will bring up the default project, which hasn't changed in, I don't know how long at this point. Well, hasn't changed since the last video 5 years ago. So if we got the 3D plot, as you see, hasn't changed, still the same. But of course, typically when you want to open a new venue, you don't want to have the default venue. You want to be able to create your own file. So of course, the first thing we're gonna do is click the three lines, and then go down to preferences, and then untick the start new project example data. You can also, this is up to you, load the last project. It depends if you're working on one project at a time or multiple projects. So that's completely up to you. I tend to just leave it like this. Updates, completely up to you. I've actually changed this already to at program start to make sure I'm fully up to date, especially with the new products that have come out over the last year, especially the new CCL system, XSL system and stuff like that. And they've also just released the install version of the CCL system. So I need to have a look at that. Audio, this is a new tab now, as you can input audio files, which I'll explain in a later date. Graphic settings hasn't changed. That hasn't changed since the last one. The export, and then controls, which you can change to however you prefer. Then settings. What are your settings? Of course, this will tell you all the current details, which is all. This has also had a slight update. So advanced features is also updated. Array processing, if you're going to be inputting line arrays. If you're not, you can always turn that off. So new things that have kind of popped in over well, definitely since the last time I made a video on this. Level avoidance, which is a part of the array processing, and I'll go into much more detail with that when I go into actually putting into a line array, and I'll do all that. Array site, which is their inclinometers. I can't remember if that was in the last one or not. Might have been, I think it was. Noise calculation, as it says there, and it was noise calculation related features to calibrating the 3D plot on headroom calc view, which is actually, I think that's part of the new headroom calc stuff. Audio networking. So this is actually part of the DS sort of like network bridge lineup. It's basically, if you're not going to be using their network bridges, don't have to worry about that. You can turn that off. But if you're going to be using Dante or AVB Milan and use their network bridges, then you're going to need the audio networking tab enabled, and it will enable all those sort of features within Array Calc. And then they've got my favorite part, Soundscape, which of course is their immersive audio system, which is object-based mixing. Then, of course, you've got the headroom calc, which helps you calculate how much headroom you're going to have in your system. And then you've got your link limits. Okay, units, that hasn't changed. R1 project, that hasn't particularly changed since the last time, but I'll go back over it. This basically sets your file so when you want to import it into R1, which of course is the control software for D&B systems for the amplifiers. You've got the how you want to start it. Protection, if you want to password protect it. And then of course you've got your air absorption, which is more important than it ever used to be, especially with kind of being all over the world and different environments. And then of course, even during a show at the start of the room, it's going to be fairly on the colder side, and then by the end of the show, it'll be quite warm because all the body heat. So you can change that on the fly. So then like potentially it's going to start at maybe 17 degrees, especially now it's in the winter sort of months. And then during the kind of summer months, you can especially put it up to the higher heats. And then it, of course, adapt the calculations to those temperature levels. Okay, so I'm going to want to start a new project. So, of course, you come up to the home button, and then you can click new. And then you can name it as you like. So for this, I'm just going to call YouTube. And set the current date, any comments you want to make. And then, of course, you've got then those same options for how you want to set up your project. Because, of course, different projects with different clients, or depending on your needs, you're not always going to need the same things enabled. For now, I think what I will do is I'll probably come back to this file, and I will use this as the base file for pretty much all future videos. I will get audio networking, headroom calc. I'll do noise calculation as well. Right, okay, units, R1 project, protection, absorption. Okay, I'll leave that as standard. Okay. So, things that have actually changed on this. Was quite a nice feature. If you go, not there, go down to here, venue database. This is absolutely fantastic. If you're especially a touring engineer, or you're going into a specific venue somewhere, you go, oh, it'd be nice if I had the file for that. Instead of having to necessarily contact the venue itself, because that can take time. And sometimes the communication is not always the best. You can actually search the venue you want to. So especially like London, where a lot of shows go through. I'm going to search Complex London. And then it pops up. We got these two venues are the current ones that are in this. I can click on the London Palladium. And then it gives you all the info you would need for that venue, which is absolutely fantastic. And then, of course, the actual original creator. Address. This is also things, the little details that I like. The kind of height clearance on the house grid, 10.6 meters. So it gives you a nice sort of reference of how high you can actually rig a line array. Yeah, I absolutely kind of love this feature. And then if you want to import it, just import to Array Calc. If you wanted to import a different venue, you can go to another one, import, and then you can add it or you can replace it. But I'm not going to bother. Okay, so I've now actually imported the London Palladium. So like before, which hasn't changed, of course, you can go to your venue. Of course, it shows all of your different parts, whether it's structure, listening, planes, obstacles. And it seems like this creator has gone into a lot of detail of naming everything, color coding. This is a very detailed model compared to a lot of models out there. And of course, you get your top view and your side view. As well as it looks like there's some comments in here. Downstage center edge of the stage, origin. All measurements from CAD drawings. Check all measurements on site before using. That is a very, very kind of key thing. Whenever you go to a site and you're looking around a venue, just double check measurements with the house crew, just to make sure there's nothing's changed since the date of upload. Because sometimes venues change how they do things. This is also a very important mixed position, especially in touring venues. They change a lot of their mixed positions where they only mix from. Sometimes the distance of stage is different, so that's always worth checking. And then it's also nice here is that they've said the Palladium is an asymmetrical in the stalls and royal circle. So that's always good to know. Sources hasn't particularly changed. You can add your array as per usual. I'm going down here. That's the only thing I don't like. Sometimes it does. It hides this, which it shouldn't do. V-Series, gotta love V-Series, the mid-sized box. But they can now replace V-Series with the XSL or the CCL, which is the smallest box, which is, of course, the cardioid design line array. So then where you want your sound, you're very much getting it. And then anything past the dispersion, it basically just gets rid of it. It basically phase cancels it, and then you're only ever getting sound where you want it. And the range of the frequency range you actually get is absolutely fantastic of how low it goes. I've heard these boxes. I spent a bit of time in Coventry with the guys from D&B, listening to this system, talking to them. It is an absolutely fantastic series, the way they've actually shrunk the box, but also kept the how deep the control, how low the frequency the control goes to. Right, so let's get rid of that. You can right click, and of course you can delete stuff. And yes, add point sources, which is fantastic. Of course, your E series, A series. I'm not entirely sure why the line arrays are in here as well. And then of course you got all the install series as well as monitors. Usual. The sub array, with all the different subs you can get, especially with the new kind of XSL sub, CCL sub, as well, which is their kind of newer cardioid subs that go along with the new line array systems, which are absolutely fantastic, as well as sort of the cardioid older setups where you actually will have the three. Like here, you got 3 B2s, and then you can add multiple point sources, which is a fairly newer feature. Let's give this a try. Let's go E series, classic E series. Let's go 6 boxes because why not? And there you go. You can add multiple point sources, and of course then it shows you the different mapping views on this. Not much has actually changed within this since pretty much the last time I made one of these videos. You still got your system, the amount of cabinets, whether you want to have it symmetrical or not, which basically just puts it into a left-right sort of setup, or you can have them individual channels depending on what you're wanting to do. Then you can select your amplifier. All the relevant sort of amplifier information you can actually find on sort of dnb.com. You can go find the actual speaker, and then it will tell you what amplifier is best to use. Some of the amplifiers you'll lose like 5 or 6 dB off of the sort of the top, like the high level. So instead of being, I don't know, 140 dB, you're only going to get 136 dB max out of it. And especially now they've got the newer D90, the classic D80. They've got the newer D40, and of course the 40D for the install version, and the D25, all the way down to the very, very half unit of the D5, which is a little Dante amplifier. Absolutely fantastic little amplifier. Absolutely love it. Yeah, and then of course a typical sort of settings you've got for them, what actual box it is, as well as the dispersion, because some of them have rotatable horns, so you can select what angle and dispersion, horizontal and vertical. Level, delay, of course the cut, as well as a high HFA, the mute, and then of course positioning and rotation. That hasn't particularly changed. That's pretty much all the same. Your mapping views, that hasn't changed either. And then, of course, your SPL with your level, whether frequency band or spectrum. They have updated the specifications with the IEC and the EIA for different parts of the Europe and US, and of course weighting, and then the calculation. Alignment hasn't particularly changed. That's still the same. 3D plot. Of course, this is still the same. Absolutely beautiful. You can have it as wireframed, or you can have it solid. And this model is really detailed. So it's hold down to right mouse button if you have it standard set up to rotate, holding down control, and then holding down the mouse click or left mouse button means you can actually move the venue. And then you basically use a combination of the two to get the view you want, as well as the top, end, side, and ISO views. You've then also got dispersion calc you can put on, and then the XYZ you can also put on. Headroom calc. This is sort of the newer menu to help you calculate how much headroom you would have in your system by adding audio data. You can set your gain trim, and then you can calculate it that way. Rigging plot hasn't changed. It still tells you your point sources, your comments, stuff like that. And then devices. This is the biggest change, the way they've done this, and I absolutely love it. It goes into far more detail, and you basically can create your chain between your input to your speaker. And I'm going to do a completely separate video on this because this needs to be quite detailed. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. The cabinets, devices, absolutely fantastic sort of piece of kit. And then of course you've got your Dante Milan AES and analog. I will go into a later date, but that's basically the general overview. Not much is well, there's a few things that have changed, especially in this last section that makes it a lot more detailed. And then of course you can change your temperature stuff up here. Yeah, this is on version 12.4.1. And then of course it tells you ready for noise calc and ready for R1. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.